I know when I look at church history, and I'll be teaching early church history at the seminary right at the beginning of October. And I've been teaching church history for this church in Frankfurt for a couple of years now. And I just love these guys. And I used to be able to go over there, but now we're doing it remotely. But I've over and over again, I've no matter who we were talking about, we were just talking about Irenaeus, for example. And you've got the external persecution. You've got Rome, and you've got martyrs, and you've got people being thrown to lions. Mm-hmm. And then he writes the 4-volume Against Heresies, which for over 1,000 years, well, almost 2,000 years, was the most complete description of the Gnostic heresy that we possessed. And so he's dealing with the stuff outside, and he's dealing with Montanism, Gnosticism, all this stuff inside. And it just reminds me when I get tempted to get tired, and it's like, I can't do all this. Mm-hmm. That it's not the first generation. No. This has been the church is at its weakest when we buy into the myth of neutrality, right? And think we have peace can have peace with the world. Yep. And one of the things that really got blown up over the past number of years is that there ever was a neutral peace with the world. Mm-hmm. And that our just keeping ourselves over here was going to be enough to keep the world from getting angry with us. Doesn't work that way. No. And so, church history definitely tells us we have to be ready for the fight. And right. As you get older and the body starts failing and you're dealing with regular pain and things like that, it's real easy to go, I'm going to leave it to somebody else. But that's right. Where the power of the Spirit comes in. So amen. You learn to depend on somebody else.
Yep, you're absolutely right. And the whole myth of neutrality and thinking about that in terms of the political and cultural aspects of the Christian life and our engagement in those arenas. The myth of neutrality, you think like, well, secularism used to not be so hostile. I think of Aaron Renn, and like living in a negative world now and these kinds of, and I like Aaron Renn, but I would push back on some of that language. But I look at it and it's just like secularism was never kind. Secularism was never neutral. Secularism was never tolerant. The kindness and the tolerance, and that didn't come from secularism. That came from the fumes of the past Christian era. It was Christianity. It was the bones of a previous Christian generation that was being kind to present Christians. It was that there was still enough leaven in the dough, but we so misinterpreted that and took that as, it's, the world doesn't really hate us. First John got it wrong and Jesus, was misinformed, or that was unique to his generation. That's not a timeless principle. It's like, no, the only reason the world doesn't hate us is because this particular world in this particular country in this particular time was shaped by Christ. It was. At least in some measure. Sure, there were some deists, and sure there, but in some measure, this was profoundly shaped by Christ and His Word, and that's the only reason it appears to be neutral. But the more and more that this wears off, and the fumes evaporate, and that foundation is utterly deconstructed, then we'll find out how modernity and secular, how it really feels about us. Big news. Really big news. Our next Right Response Conference is in the works. We've got a number of things already lined up and organized. This is what we got so far. The whole conference, 3 days long, on postmillennialism and theonomy. And the speakers, Dr. James White, Dr. Joseph Boot, Gary DeMar, and of course yours truly, Pastor Joel Webbon. We've got a great lineup. We've got great topics. If you want to find out dates and location and registration and anything else, go and visit our website, rightresponseconference.com. rightresponseconference.com.